Mic check, 1 2. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Okay, I was doing a little test with my producer. That's a nice way to say it, right? I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to make sure I'm live. All right. Good morning, people. This is Jovi. If you haven't seen me before, if you haven't heard of me before, well, you're hearing from me now, or you're hearing of me now. This is Jovi, and this is Wild Thoughts, and this is the way I see it. I'm gonna be talking about a lot of stuff this morning. Quite a few stuff that has been in the media for the past couple weeks or two. Some as of recent, but as I said, this is my twist of it on it, and it doesn't matter how long it's been in the media. It doesn't matter if it's been stopped covered. I'm gonna cover it anyway. So before that, just let me do a little bit of introduction to my channel. And before I do the introduction, I haven't done a video in a while. For one, I don't have the time. I have a lot of work, and I have a lot of kids, right? And a lot of issues. So there's no point in going live and doing all this stuff when other stuff is not being worked out. And also, I'm trying to learn a new game here. I'm new to the streaming business. I'm new to editing. I'm new to broadcasting live, and I'm trying to figure it out as I go. So it's gonna be choppy, but doesn't matter. We're gonna continue because we're gonna get better. Okay, so let me just do a quick intro, and then I'm gonna get into it. Okay. Hello and welcome. This is Jovi, and this is Wild Thoughts. This is my thoughts. This is free speech, so I don't buy talk. Albeit, this is how I see it. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to my channel. All right. Yeah, so that's that. Yeah, so today there's a few stuff that I'm gonna cover. I'm gonna cover the vice president debate that just took place in in the United States. And that was between J.D. Vance and Senator J.D. Vance and the next person is Governor Tim Walz, and both of those people are vying for the vice president spot in the upcoming election that will take place this November 3rd, I think. Tim Walz, he's running on the Kamala Harris ticket, and J.D. Vance, he's running on the Donald Trump ticket. And not in any detail or any shape or form. This is just what I think about it. I've watched most of it. I can't say I watched all of it. I've seen the parts I miss. I've seen snippets, but I think I've seen enough where I can have a take on it. And for the most part, I think it's flat. This is not a debate that you're gonna remember, right? And for me, I want to hear more from these people because these people potentially gonna be president, in the future sometime. So this is kind of the way it goes. Kamala Harris was well, is now the vice president, and now she's vying for the top spot, or vying to be, at, at the top of the ticket. So it can go like that. So these people, they have a chance to make their mark, and not to overshadow the person that they're actually running, under, but they still have a chance to make their mark, with coming out with some solution-based argument that people can actually run with and actually remember them whenever their time come, and that's one of the issues that Kamala Harris had. She was vice president for what, over 3 years, and at this point she's kind of like introducing herself still, even though she's the vice president of the United States, right? So that just tells me, when you have this opportunity, you have to make your mark. You have to be memorable, right? And if I'm gonna say one is more one is more memorable than one, I would say probably J.D. Vance, because there was sort of a media storm around him, based on some of the comments that he had made, and has made, and have been making, one of them was about women, not having kids, to the extreme of calling them, cat ladies. That did its media circle for a little bit. One of the most recent is his criticism of the Haitian immigrants in Ohio, right? He has picked up some media traction with that. So I don't know what that's all about. Perhaps they're thinking that any form of press is good press, whether it's bad or good, right? He's got his name out there. He was once a Trump critic. Now he's running under the Trump ticket. So that just tells you that anything can happen. But more specific to the debate, there's nothing really that jumps out at me to say, okay, I can hang my hat on this, right? Based on the coverage, is more like J.D. Vance is trying to kind of polish his image. He's notably one of the or noticeably one of the least favorable or likable vice president picks for a very long time. So I think it was more of, hey, look, I'm a normal human being. I can be rational just like anybody else, as well as I can be extreme, because even some of his answers was extreme, right? But I can be normal, and it was more like, it was more like a attaboy, thing for me. It's like, hey, I like that. They were more complimenting each other. Yes, I like what you said. I don't totally agree, kind of deal. A standout moment for me was when Tim Walz, I think he was rebutting J.D. Vance, and he said he wrote down something, because I guess J.D. Vance, he was more, like criticizing experts, like everything was word science and word this and word that, and not so good this and not so good that. And Tim Walz was like, well, at some point we got to start, we got to put some stock into these experts, you know what I mean? So I think he said, if you need a heart surgery, you better go to a heart surgeon. You don't want to listen to Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or J.D. Vance, or even himself, about doing a heart surgery. You're gonna go to a heart surgeon. So this is a society where we rely on experts to do their thing, right? We rely on a pilot. Now, I mean, no average person or ordinary person is gonna go and say, I'm gonna fly a plane today. Imagine you sitting in a plane and just a random guy just walking in a sweatpants and sweatshirt and say, "Hey, by the way, I'm flying the plane today. Enjoy the flight." How the hell you gonna feel, right? So it's the same thing. What I mean, I don't really take much stock of these, politicians trying to put down, so to speak, experts. Whether it's a doctor, I mean, lawyer is a gray area. So I'm not even gonna throw lawyers in there. But uh, 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 what else? Scientists, right? Pilots. Those people, you just gotta let them do what they do. you know those people I don't even bother to try to criticize, because I sit in a plane, I'm secured as heck. Like, my whole life is in this one pilot hand, and I don't know what happened. If he got into sleep this morning, right? If he or she was arguing with their wife or spouse or significant other this morning. So those are some of the people. I just let them do what they do. What I mean, you do employ a little bit of common sense, but at the end of the day, you do your thing. And I think that's what Tim Walls was saying. When it comes to global warming, we're going to rely on the experts, right? When it comes to abortion and all that stuff, we're going to rely on the experts. We don't need a cabinet or a legislature of lawyers, making doctor decisions. So as it relates to abortion and those things, let that be between, the woman and her doctor. For me, I think it's more of a family decision, especially when you're married, right? And especially if you're if a man and a woman get together and they have a child, or they're expecting a child, and the male counterpart is also involved, I think it's more of a family decision. you know the narrative is between a doctor, between a woman and her doctor. Yeah uh, yeah I can work with that to some extent, but also to some extent I think it's a family decision. I think both parties make that child, and both parties should have a say so as to what happened, or both parties should at least find common ground when that decision is gonna be made, right? um, yeah, but that was the debate for me. It isn't it's neither here nor there, right? There's no standout moment. That's just that one little moment. They talk about the war going on in Israel right now, between Israel and Palestine, and now Israel killed this Hezbollah leader, and Iran fire at them. They hit Iran, not too long ago. They fired some rockets, and there's hell is breaking loose over there. And I don't think any of them answer that question. They're basically, what both of them say is that Israel needs to be supported. That's all. That's basically what they're saying. They're not saying, well, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're not gonna do. They're saying Israel is our ally. Israel is our ally. Is our ally, and they need to be supported. And why they're saying that they need to be supported is because, the American people don't really take so well, as of late, with just blindly supporting Israel, right? They don't really take tea with that. That's what we're saying in Jamaica. We don't really take tea with that, right? A lot of people think that there needs to be some accountability where that is concerned, right? So now it's more of a plea to the people, like, hey, they're still our ally, and we need to support them. But back in the day, it used to be like, hey, it was a slam dunk, like open and shut case. Like, hey, we're gonna support our ally, we're gonna support Israel, and nobody's gonna tell us anything different. And the American people normally go along with that, right? No, not so much. If I could measure it, I would say it's probably split down the middle. You know, half and half. Some say yes, and some say no, or some say yes, some say no, and some say like hold up, wait a little bit. Let's talk about this. You know, kind of deal. So I don't think they answer that question, and I think that probably was the most important question, one of the most important question that was asked, right? What are we going to do? Are we going to get ourselves involved in what's going on over there? Because there's a lot going on over there, right? So, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm still learning the software, so I'm looking at it to see if there's anything I need to see or I need to turn on. Yeah, but there's a lot going on over there, and it seems that there's a lot more is gonna happen. So that was a very important question that I think should have get some form of firm answer instead of dancing around it. Um, because even though you're the potential vice president, whenever those decisions is gonna be made, you're gonna be in that room, right? Somebody's gonna want to hear your voice, right? So we want to know what you think, what you really think, right? Um, what was it? The economy. They touched on that a little bit. And it was more of a touch and go on all the subjects. Nothing was really discussed in depth. I guess they have so much questions that they want to get out that they didn't really ask. They wasn't really allowed to stay on a topic for any period of time, which, you know, I think that when it comes to these things, that there ought to be some form of polling to see which, or what topics that people really want to hear, right? And then you just take those two or three topics and you pound the hell out of it, right? Whether it's the economy, whether it's national security, right? Um, 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 or we call it international affairs, things like that, or abortion. Pick those three topics and you pound the hell out of it. Whichever one. They touch on January 6th. That's kind of played out for me. It is what it is. Whatever happened happened. You know what I mean? Nothing much has been done about it, and I don't think there's much is gonna be done about it. So that's kind of played out for me. So whatever they say, So Tim Walz asked J.D. Vance if the 2020 election was stolen. He danced around that too. He didn't really answer it. Um, if he, I mean, what is he gonna say? He said he want to move forward. But even if he said yes, it doesn't really matter. If he said no, it doesn't really matter. Whatever happened, happened, right? And whatever he say to me, in my view, doesn't really change anything. You have a bunch of people went to jail or prison. I don't think the right people went to jail or prison. You know what I mean? There's some heavy hitters out there that probably should have seen some time in jail. In my view, right? Um, so whether or not he answered that question or any of them talk about that topic it's over. They can say no, we're not gonna contest this election, and then turn around and have a change of heart. Like for me, it's game time decision for me. What are you gonna do when it's all said and done, right? Are on the day off, right? I care not what you say now. Well, I'm not gonna contest this one. We're gonna behave or whatever the case may be. I don't really care about that. So they touch on that, but the economy is very important to me, right? I have a family, so healthcare is very important to me. I have a big family, so that's very important to me. They didn't really touch on that much. They talk about the Affordable Care Act. You know, I I don't have much to say about the Affordable Care Act than the fact that I applied for it once. I was on it for a little bit, and they kicked me out and give me back my money and say, "Hey, look, you can get on Medicare." Is it Medicare or Medi-Cal? Yeah, Medi-Cal, right? Which I don't even know what to think about that. They put me on there, but I'm a veteran. I have insurance. It's more about my family, right? And making sure that they have the best insurance. So when they go to the doctor, they can get not so care, but really good care. That was what was important to me. So, does it work? Affordable Care Act? I don't really know, right? I don't really know because, as I said, I was on it. I paid them. They kick me out, send me back my money, and say, you can get on this program. So I don't know if that's part of the deal to where they make, once you sign up, they review your situation, say this one is better suited for you. I don't know if that's part of it. It may as well be. I don't know. It could be. So I don't really know if it works. They talk about that, but that's an important thing for me, right? Is healthcare for not only myself but for my family, right? But as I said, there was no big standout moment there. It was so that one can pass. Thank God they're only doing one, right? Do I care about seeing any other debates? Not really. These people are gonna say whatever they think that they need to say to get to the top of the ticket, right? It's all about what they do when they get in office, right? And as I always maintain, at some point, somebody's gonna be the president, and then there's another time when they're not gonna be the president. That's just how I see it. I just see it more of a ceremonial position. There's not much that a president, in my view, can do to change your life. I think most of the things that affect your life is here at the bottom of the ticket, right? Your police chief, your mayor, your state senators, because your senators is one going up there speaking on your behalf, and your Congress people, they're the one making decisions, right? They make decisions for the country, but they also make decisions in the best interest of what's going on in their home state, right? At least that's how they're supposed to be voting, right? They're supposed to take in feedback from their state, and they supposed to be voting accordingly, right? Same thing with your senators, right? And your governor, right? Your city manager, things like that. I think is more important to me than somebody who's gonna wave their hands and kiss babies and sign a bunch of executive orders that is gonna be thrown away when the next president come along. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like what I see happen. Like I've been here for quite a few presidents. I was here for the end of George Bush's presidency, and I went through Obama's presidency. Now I went through Trump's presidency. Now I'm going through Biden's presidency, and I don't really see much that they have done to make any significant change in my life. Whatever change is made in my life is made locally. Like for now, I'm in the renewable energy sector, and last year a decision was made, right, by the CPUC, which is the California Public Utilities Commission, right? Net metering 3.0. In my view, that kind of killed the solar business, because most people used to buy solar because of that one-to-one incentive, right? They can zero out their bill, right, without spending like a bunch of money. Now you got to buy batteries, right? And batteries the prices have come down considerably, but by and large it's still expensive. So most people, you present it to them and say, hey, you're gonna need solar, but you're gonna need this battery. And once they look at the price of the battery, they're like, no, I ain't doing that, because people don't really care about what's gonna pay off 10, 15 years ago. They worry about what they're gonna get in their pocket now. That's kind of like how those decisions are made. And I think the CPUC has ruined that for a lot of the solar. And there's a lot of solar companies going out of business. They was going out of business before, but it's happening even more now. Even the bigger companies that should have had a strong, like foothold, a strong root in the ground, they're going out of business too, which I think, and that's a local decision, right? And I think those affect you more than what somebody's going to make all the way in Washington, D.C. But anyway, I'm not going to go on and on about it, but that's my take on that part of it, the vice presidential debate. The next topic I'm going to cover is yours truly, bro God, Andrew Holness, right, which is the Jamaican Prime Minister. And that has been a development for quite some time now in the news, and still in the news. It has been widely reported that the Prime Minister statutory declaration hasn't been certified for about 2 to 3 years, and that is, it hasn't been certified by the Integrity Commission. And for a lot of people who don't know what the Integrity Commission is, there's this body, right, that investigate public officials. It could be the Prime Minister, Member of Parliament, the mayors, what you call the bureaucracy as it relates to like the permanent secretaries, your director of this, right, your secretary of that, these people, who else can I say, the clerks, right, those people who support the elected officials, right, to carry out their duties, right? And those people who run those agencies that help the country to move along, whether it's the people who are running the immigration sector, the people who are running and to kind of break it down is that how the political system work in Jamaica is that a lot, which is kind of the way how I see people view it is kind of madness, right? But the way the political system work in Jamaica is kind of like what I just kind of explained, right? It's more at your local level, right? People vote or should vote for their local representative, and that's how Jamaica work. Nobody vote for a prime minister. The only way you vote for the prime minister is if you vote for that person within your own constituency. But how it works is that the prime minister is really the president of the winning party, or the leader of the winning party. So that party get more seats, right, than the leader or the president of the party, right, become the prime minister. That's really how it works. But when people are voting, they're actually voting for a direct representative in their area, in their locale, in their constituency, right, in their municipality, so to speak, right. And in Jamaica, the municipality has to deal with your your mayors, right? And your counselors, your divisions, and stuff like that. But to me, that's how it ought to work, right? So really, the prime minister is kind of like a de facto measure, right? You vote for the people that represent you, and then if that party, if more people vote for their locale, and more of those locale people is on one side, then the president of the party become the uh, the prime minister, thus the leader of the country, right? Because there is something to say about leadership, right? People don't just win elections like that. It needs structure. It's a campaign supposed to be a well-oiled machine. So for a party to win more seats, it means that the leader is doing something really good, at least on the party level. So to me, it's justified that that person lead the country because they had shown that they can lead their party to victory, and thus what would want for them to do is to provide that same leadership that they lead the party. No, galvanize that leadership and galvanize the whole country and lead the whole country to victory, right? And when I say victory, it means that our economic status, rise our economic status in the world, right? Whether that's trade or you name it, right? That's how it's supposed to work, right? But anyway, you vote for a member of parliament. That's basically what the person you're voting for in a general election, right? That general elect that the party that got the most, they take over the government. They assume the government, right? Those say so. A few of those member of parliament now form what you call the legislature, right? Or parliament, right? And well, all of them form parliament, so to speak, but some of them form the legislature because they provide over ministries, right? Or all of them may be legislature, but a few of them is going to preside over ministries, right? Now, within those ministries, you have other people that are not elected, right? Those are still government officials, right? The IC, which is the Integrity Commission, they keep them in check. That's basically for and against corruption or any form of malfeasance, right? So basically, they have to every year they have to submit a statutory declaration, right? Once you're elected or you're working there, even if you're working the transport of authority, you could be, a leader, of the JDF or the JCF, the Jamaican Constabulary Federation, right? Those people are vetted by the IC, right? The Integrity Commission. So for moving forward, I'm going to say IC, so just know that it means the Integrity Commission, right? As I said, all your clerks and your permanent secretaries and all your bureaucracies, all those people are vetted by the IC, right? So they have to submit a statutory declaration, right, of their income, expenses and liabilities. So these people can vet it and see that, hey, look, they're not really going into like the taxpayer's purse, right, and enriching themselves. That's basically what this is for, right? And also other things, conflict of interest. You're not just hiring your friends, because you and I go to this school. I'm not just hiring all of these people that I went to school with, or the fact that you go to my school, whichever way, it doesn't matter we go there at the same time or not. You went to my school, so you deserve a job in this ministry. They look at that. What I mean? Conflict of interest, right? Your friends, right? Family members. They look at all those things, right? So the prime minister, so to put that in the context, that they're not only looking at the prime minister, they look at everybody, right? Can they look at everybody all at once? No. So there may be other stuff going on. As a matter of fact, when the Prime Minister IC report, there was other people IC report came out. One of them was Crystal Byfield. I don't remember what area she works in, but that one came out at the same time as well. The Prime Minister took over the media storm because he's a Prime Minister, right? And he's held at a certain standard, he or she, right? So he submitted his statutory declaration, and for a number of years it wasn't certified because his statutory declaration came under scrutiny by the investigative body that hold them accountable, right? Which is the Integrity Commission. The report came out, and there's quite a few stuff, right, in there that I want to say damning, to say the least, right? Which the Prime Minister is fighting back, which I'm going to cover that, right? He's fighting back. But the report came out, and it seemed to the wider public, or at least it seemed to me, that it's incomplete, right? Which, and I say incomplete meaning that there is no conclusions to a lot of the allegations and a lot of the findings, I should say. Because at this point, it's not even allegations, it's findings. What they report was findings, but the findings, they cannot conclude it because it need more investigative body, it need more investigative power. At least that's what they're saying. It need more investigative people who can go more in depth, right? But basically what they're saying, a lot of these things doesn't add up, right? I'm gonna go over it a little bit. You know, I went and I highlighted a few stuff that jumps out of me at me, and that's what I want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the full report. You know, it has been covered extensively, and it has been covered exhaustively, right, ever since it came out. I have the report. I highlighted a few stuff, and that's really what I'm going to talk about. So let me see if I can bring it up here, right, and there it is, right? So this is the IC report. Let me see if I can bring it up a little bit more. And there you go, right? And let me go back and see if I can show you when this one came out. So September 5th is when it came out, and it was delivered to the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And the House of Representatives, all those member of parliaments that you voted in, right, in your own constituency. That's what the House of Representatives are, right? And the House of Parliament, and that's the Garden House, right? The Speaker of the House is the wife of the Prime Minister. Many argue that's a conflict of interest. The good thing is that it seemed as if she recused herself, at least from the front, or for the optics of it seemed like she recused herself, because she wasn't the one that actually present the IC report, right? Or table it, because after this has been completed, or after they put together their report, right? Because some people kind of confuse and conflate putting together a report than completing a report, right? It was presented by the deputy Speaker of the House, right? Which is Heroy Clark, right? Or Honorable Heroy Clark. That's who presented the that's who presented or tabled
the ICA report on the Prime Minister. Okay. As I said, the Speaker of the House, being that she is intimately involved with the Prime Minister, she's his wife, right? The deputy presented, so it seems, at least from the optics of it, that she recused herself. What they talk about, I don't know, right? But from the optics of it, seemed like she recused herself, right? Moving on. And as I said, these are just some, and these are just some jargon, that kind of explain the report, explain statutory declaration, right? And so on and so forth. But I'm not gonna go into all that boring details, right? Because as I said, there's plenty of platforms out there that you can go get all the details from. I know that
what's her name? Lady from All Angles. I know her first name is Dion. I can't remember her last name. Right? Whenever I remember, I'll tell you. But she did like about 7 or 8 parts explaining the whole thing, reading the whole. It's 171 pages. See right here, 171 pages, right? And there's some addendums to it. So, it's more than 171, right? Because they submit some addendums to kind of help the report, so to speak. So there was 2 separate occasions, right? It says that it has already been stated above that the statutory declaration submitted by Mr. Holness for year 21 was referred to the DI on 2 separate occasions, right? So this is the investigative division, right, or the director of investigation, right? So there's 2 separate investigation into the Prime Minister statutory declaration. One was on September 30th, 2022, right? And that was out of concern that the Prime Minister had omitted certain asset, which was bank accounts, which was 4 bank accounts to be exact, from his statutory declaration, or allegedly. I don't want to say exact, allegedly, right? And then February 19, 2023, right, there was another investigation. And with that investigation, it says recommended to the commission that Mr. Holness be requested to provide information he omitted from the reference statutory declaration as to ensure full compliance with the ICA, which is the ICA is the Integrity Commissions Act, right? That's what the ICA is. The DI, which is the Director of Investigation, right, recommend that a comprehensive examination of Mr. Holness' statutory declaration be undertaken by the Director of Information. Hold on. By the Director of Information and Complaints, once resubmitted pursuant to the powers reserved to him under Section 32 and 42 of the Integrity Commission Act, right? So those are the statute in which permits him, because they can't just go look at your stuff. You know what I mean? Certain statutes has to it has to be grounded in law, right? And based on how the ICA, which is the Integrity Commission Act, is written in law, right? So you can use those statutes to do things, right? Just like how if a cop is gonna come and search your house, they can't come and walk up in your house and search your house. They gotta come with a warrant, right? It's the same thing, right? They gotta show that they have a reason to be here, right? And not just coming to just invade your privacy for no reason, right? So the DI's recommendation was accepted by the commission, and consequent thereon, Mr. Holness provided the omitted information, right? And he provided by way of letters, right, some information on February 2023, March 6, 2023,
March 12, 2023, and March 23, 2023, March 2023, March 23, 2023, and there's a lot of threes in here, right? And April 4th, 2023, right? And all that was referred to the DI for a second time on May 3rd, 2023, right? The basis of the referral is that he owned assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings. So that's basically what they're saying. What he earns lawfully and what they deem to be what he earned lawful cannot be explained by what he's submitting. So we need to take a deeper look. It's like me sending you for a red pen and you bring me a blue one. How come the red pen become blue? Right? That's a bad analogy, but you know, you get the gist, right? Me send you for something, and when you come, the thing look different. Or you're supposed to bring me some food, and when the food come, half I eat out. I want to know where the rest of the food is, right? So things like that. So that's basically what they say. They need a deeper look into what's going on, right? And these are a lot of the correspondence that they have with him, right? This here brings me to a question, right? It says final investigation report submitted to the commissioners. This report was not tabled in the House of Parliament, right? So for some reason they didn't send this report, and this is on February 19th, 2023. So it's either they didn't send it or they send it and it didn't table. What happened, I don't know, right? But anyway, on May 3rd, the Prime Minister, Mr. Holness, was referral received from the commissioners pursuant to 14.5 of the CPA and 43.2a of the ICA in relation to statutory declarations submitted by Mr. Holness for the year 2021. So on May 3rd, pursuant to 14.5, and why 14.5 is very important right here, right? The Prime Minister's lawyer issued a statement saying that he wasn't aware, and the Prime Minister was asked if he was aware that he was being investigated for illicit enrichment. And this here, 14.5, not in the ICA, but the Corruption Prevention Act, the CPA. This statute is in there, 14, which is section 14, subsection 5, and it says illicit enrichment. That's all it says, nothing else. Illicit enrichment. They try to explain illicit enrichment, which I'm going to go over as well. But in that act, it says illicit enrichment is just one line, and that's all 14.5 cover, right? So the Prime Minister, in the statement, where his lawyer statement, that the first time he 14.5 was ever mentioned to the Prime Minister was in August of the same year, 2023. Reason why that is important, because the Prime Minister was asked by the media to report if anyone in his cabinet or anyone in his party is being is under investigation for illicit enrichment. The Prime Minister said he searched far and wide, and to his knowledge, no one is being investigated for illicit enrichment. And that's including himself, because he's also in his cabinet, right? He's presided over ministries, right? And certain offices that is in his remit, right? So that's including himself. He said no. However, the Integrity Commission is saying that there was a referral received from the commissions pursuant to 14.5. So it could be that they didn't tell him, because the commissioners, they referred, right, to the investigative division under 14.5. So when they notify him that they're investigating him under 14.5, could be the issue, right? So based on the time when he was asked the question and he gave that answer, then then he could be correct in saying that, hey, look, you asked me a specific question and I answered that specific question. I was never investigated. When you asked me the question, I was never investigated. I know my paperwork or my declaration was under scrutiny, but at that point, my statutory declaration wasn't investigated. At least I wasn't aware that my statutory declaration was being investigated under 14.5, right? As illicit enrichment. Yes, I'm investigated, but not as in illicit enrichment, right? So he could say, yes, I answered the question that you asked me. Are anybody in my cabinet being um, investigated for illicit enrichment? He said he searched far and wide and no, as far as he's concerned, which is kind of semantics, so to speak. But it's semantics because when they're answering these questions, they're thinking about court, right? And these are the things that, these are lawyer statements that they're giving, right? So he could be correct in saying that he wasn't aware that he was being investigated for illicit enrichment. The follow up, and that's my problem with Jamaican journalism. They don't follow up, right? Because my follow up would about that would be, if I'm asking that question, is anybody investigated at all for any reason by the Integrity Commission? No, based on what you say now, I can hold that to you, right? So now there's some gray area here because the opposition party and a lot of media person and a lot of other bodies came out and said the prime minister lied, but he knew he was being investigated for illicit enrichment and he lied to the nation. No, he had his lawyers and they're threatening people, saying, hey, he was not aware. The only time he ever got any communication, either written or verbal, under 14.5 is August 18. And it says it here, right? There was a letter sent to Mr. Holness. They're advising him the referral received. So what was in that letter? So you see right here, 14.5, pursuant to 14.5, right? So did they tell him that they received the information, the referral to investigate him under 14.5, and they're looking into it and they're gonna give him more communication? Because it said this letter was sent on May 5th, 2 days later. Right? So this is a gray area now. Right? Who knows? So that's between Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the Integrity Commission. They might have evidence showing that he knew, and they might not. Right? So that's where it weighs in the balance, right? But come down here now to August 18. They said a letter was dispatched to Mr. Holness's attorney conveying Section 14.5 CPA 14.5, which is CPA, which is the Corruption Prosecution Act, judge's rule, and issues question to be explored in the interview. You see, I have a problem with this. I have a problem with this sentence right here. Issued judge's rules and notice issues question. I have a problem with that. Because if I'm investigating somebody, I'm not telling them what I'm going to ask them. Right? And I'm going to tell you a real story, right? I've been investigated. Well, I've been brought in for questioning by the NCIS while I was in the Navy. The matter wasn't about me. I didn't do anything wrong, but I was a part of the investigation. Right? I was getting ready to go on deployment to the Philippines. I just got attached to that detachment as well. I was about to go to main body. I was supposed to end up in Japan somewhere, right? But I got a detachment. When you're in the military, you want to get a detachment. That's where the fun is, right? If you like to work, that's where the work is, and if you want to have fun, that's where the fun is, right? Unless you're going to a contingency situation, meaning you're going to war, right? Then there's no fun there, right? You're safer in main body. You're safer on the fob, so to speak. But um, what I was gonna say, yeah. So I got called in. I got notified by my superior that the NCIS want to see me. Which anybody watch TV and watch NCIS? NCIS is not a TV, not just a TV program. It's a real investigative body. A lot of people don't know that. They see the thing on TV and they think that it's just a TV. No, right? It's real. They called me in, and I'm telling you, I was shitting grease. I was shitting my pants. Because what the hell does the NCIS want to investigate me for? And I had to suffer through the whole night. I called friends who I knew been investigated by the NCIS before. They tell me what matter they were investigated on would turn out to be trivial. But at this time, I don't know. So I have to shit my pants for the whole time until that interview took place. After that interview took place and they asked me, you know what I call you in here for? I said no. When they start asking me questions, I become a little bit more at ease. Because now I realize that this shit is not about me. Yes, I have information that I can share, right? But it puts me at ease to know that it's not about me. Because even when they start asking me questions, I didn't know that it wasn't about me. Because there's questions leading up to that, right? Because they when they're questioning you, they're trying to get a pattern to see. They're asking you basic questions that you and them supposed to know, so they can see if to get a pattern to see if you are capable of just telling a lie, right? So that was that, but for the whole time I shit my pants. So if you're gonna ask questions, you don't tell their lawyer what questions you're gonna ask. You give them time to come up with some answers. When you're investigating people, you're trying to prosecute them too. You got to remember you're building a case. That's what investigation is for, is to build a case, not to build a phony case, right? The thing about United States, if they can't get you for what they're getting for, they're going to get you for something else. They're not going to waste your time. So if they don't get you for illicit enrichment, they're getting you for perjury, lying under oath. And right here, the judge's rule, right? That's pretty much what that is. That's pretty close to what that is. But this is probably the Jamaican version of you're under oath, sir or ma'am, so you better tell the truth. Because anything you say or don't say, well, anything you say can be used against you in court. Right? So, not only that, first of all, you shouldn't bring anybody in and question them without knowing the answers. That's number one. Any good investigator or so-so investigator will tell you that. When they're bringing you in for questioning, they know the answer. You get what I'm saying? So you're gonna send questions. Or they say there's a notice of question. Did they tell them that they have questions, or did they give them the questions? That's kind of great too. But if they give them the questions, that's a no. You're trying to have this guy perjure himself. Because that's how you pile on the charges. I remember being in the military going to captain's mast, and I break one rule, and by the time I get to captain's mast, I have about 5 or 6 charges. I'm like, where the hell does these charges come from? You see, they stack this stuff. You're going down. That's how it works here in the United States. US of A. Once they grab you, you're going down. And if you see evidence of malfeasance and you're gonna question somebody, I'm not okay with this. If they're giving him questions, I'm not okay with it. Because you're giving his lawyer, so you're setting up his lawyers to come up with answers. You want to dig him up fresh off the street and ask him questions. Hey, here's a date. You come in, and for the most from that time you inform them, they're shitting everywhere. That's that's my perspective on that part of it. I don't agree with giving people questions that you're gonna ask him. If that's what they did, I don't know, but it seems as that's what it is, or maybe they just notice that of the judge's rules and there's questions to be explored. I don't know. That's so gray, right? All these stuff is correspondence that they have with the prime minister leading up to like January, February, come all the way down here until when the report was actually. See here, July, August. When was it tabled? Okay, so this was their last. Well, these are all the witnesses, and so this is not just him. This is witnesses and other banks and agencies and stuff like that they're talking to, right? And business partners. So it's not just him. They're corresponding with. They're corresponding. So basically, they kind of outline a correspondence. Say, hey, look, we talked to so and so. We talked to so and so. We talked to so and so, and these are the dates that the chronology. So nobody can say they wasn't talked to. Nobody can say, hey, I didn't hear from these people, right? Through the process of this, it says you're doing the investigation. Officers of the investigative division pursue the following lines of inquiry, right? Obtain information and witness statements from the responsible officers at House of Parliament, various financial institution, company, is Office of Jamaica, National Land Agency, Tax Administration Jamaica, Tax Stock Exchange Jamaica, Jamaica Stock Exchange, sorry. Auditors of companies associated with Mr. Holness, right? So they talk to his auditors too. Auditors are the people who does his tax is financial statements, right? They audit it to see if there's any income, because they can be in trouble too, right? Or not, because auditors they're auditing the information you give to them. So there's always a waiver there that you have to sign when an auditor is doing that. Hey, look, this is based on information that you give me, so I cannot be held liable for passing this. Because basically, what the auditors do, my friend is an auditor, and I hope she sees this and corroborate what I said, right? Big up yourself, you know yourself, right? But they are given the final hamina. Like, they're sprinkling the sauce on this thing to say, okay, this is good. That's what an auditor does. They check to make sure that the person who prepare your financial statement, they do a good job, right? And nothing's been left out. And there's no T's that is not crossed. There's no I's that is not dotted. That's what an auditor does, right? So it's kind of like proofing, putting a proof coat over your financial statements, right? The final hamina, right? So, they are gonna get a waiver, get you to sign a waiver when they're doing your financial statement to say, hey, look, these are big, and that came up in Donald Trump's case when they called his auditors, they called this auditor company of the financial issues that he had in New York, right? The auditing firm did not get into trouble because they have a whole bunch of waivers and stuff that say, hey, look, these are based on the information that we gathered from the party or the person who give us the information. So we are not liable for clearing this. Based on what you give me, it looks good. If you had something else hiding in the back, we have no way of knowing that, right? And that's when we're talking about forensic audits too, right? Forensic audit, people can only do forensic audits on information that was given to them. That's one of the things that came up, right? That, oh, there's a forensic audit and they check it out and how it could have been, that them checking them just sign off the man thing because they call in forensic agents and auditors and they do all this forensic and they're supposed to clear him. No, he's not supposed to clear him. They said in the report that this guy wasn't 100% compliant. They need more information from him that he wasn't readily giving and he wasn't willing to give. So the forensic audit can only go thus far based on the paper that was given to them or the documents, right? And you can't hold them liable for not doing a good job either, because I'm pretty sure when they're signing those documents or signing that agreement with the forensic auditors, wherever they came from, where we're told they come from overseas, right? They're gonna have some waivers for you to sign to say, hey, look, we're gonna look into this thing for you, and we're gonna do our due diligence. We're gonna go as far and wide as possible as we can possibly go. But that's to the extent of what you give me. If there's missing information, I can't audit those. I can tell you what's missing, and I can tell you that this doesn't add up, right? But I can't come to a logical conclusion based on the fact that I'm missing, or based on what you give me, it looks good. It's good. What you give me looks good. So here goes your check mark, right? Later on, when somebody do some investigative journalism or somebody do some more investigation, you get caught up. Another company went down or got in some trouble, and they call your name, and your name get tied up, and then you're back all over an investigation again, right? No, they're gonna call on that same forensic audit company that did the audit. How could they miss this? And they're gonna come with that statement that says, "Hey, look, you can't entangle us. We can give you what we have, but you can't entangle us any further because we signed a waiver that says our audit is based on what you give me. Whatever documents or information you turn over me, that's what I'm gonna look at." And then they get to play their part or walk away. And that's basically what that is. And it says here they talk to director and shareholders associated with businesses, right? That's who they talk to, right? And these are talking about don't really make false statements and all that. So a whole bunch of legalese jargon. I'm not going to bore. A lot of people are already bored with that information. If you so desire to get the information, as I said, there's a lot of places to get it, right? So here another chronology. On March 29, 2022, Mr. Holness submitted his statutory declaration, which is Declaration 1 for year 2021. On September 8, 2022, an addendum to the previously submitted statutory declaration was submitted by Mr. Holness, right? Declaration 1, he declared a NCB bank account not previously declared. So these are some of the stuff. There was some bank account that not declared, right? February 27, right? A second declaration was declared, and those two accounts was held with First Global Bank, right? Further inquiries revealed by the commission that additional bank accounts that he still didn't receive on those two declarations / addendums, right? At additional Bank of Nova Scotia, BNS, right? And Jamaica money market brokers, which were not included in Declaration 2. So they wasn't included in Declaration 1, it wasn't included in Declaration 2. You get what I'm saying? So that's the gist of it. I'm trying to make it as layman as possible, right? I highlighted this because he has a bank account over here in the United States, Citibank to be exact, right? US dollars, checking account, right? In Jamaica, we spell checking account with a Q. In the United States, we spell check CHECKING. We don't use that Q in there. So a lot of people say checking. No, it's not a G, it's a Q. But that's how we spell check in Jamaica. It's the Queen's language, people. Right? 713 US. Right? I calculated that I think it accumulates to about, let me see here. Let me see if I can calculate this. 713 528 0.27 times 150. That's 107 million. Right? Yeah, 107 million. A little bit over 107 million dollars, right? He has Jamaican dollars. If you translate it or convert it in Citibank, right? Which I was in the military, and the military used that bank too. That's your government travel card right there. He did not declare. National Commercial Bank, current account bearing account number 62. Did not declare two FGB bank accounts, number ending 04 and 07. That's what they're saying he did not declare. Right? They wrote him here, and they say, hey, if you believe that you have omitted any other information with respect to your income, assets, and liabilities, whether they exist locally or abroad, kindly also provide full particulars of same. For the avoidance of doubt for each asset indicated, please state the source of funds, including all supporting documents. Please be advised that this request is being made in keeping with Section 42, subsection 2, and Section 43 of the Integrity Commissions Act. So they're stating the legal reason why they're asking for these documents, right? He didn't declare them, but you see they're asking for bank account overseas. So in the end, if he still have bank account overseas that he didn't declare, he's in a world of trouble as well, right? It says here, Mr. Holness responded by a letter, September 7, 2022, right? With further information, assets and liabilities and income, right? He included NCB bank account bearing number 62, right? And that was to section 1 of his 2021 declaration, right? On January 12, 2023, he was interviewed, right, pursuant to rules 2 of the judge's rule, right? And it says further evidence was also obtained from relevant financial institution. The DI felt it necessary to explore the circumstances of the ownership and use of the bank accounts in question, having regard to the evidence. The DI is having regard to the evidence. The DI is satisfied that while Mr. Holness held these accounts, the omissions could have been inadvertent. This can be inferred from the limited, if non-existent, interactions by Mr. Holness with reference account. So basically, he has some of these accounts, and there was no interaction with them, right? They were just laying there dormant. Some of them was being used, some of them was laying there dormant. So he's saying, but I don't like when investigators make assumptions. Basically, he's assuming, well, you know what? Take that back. Because in order for them to probe into stuff, they have to make assumptions. They have to make assumption that you're guilty of something in order to probe deeper. Right? If there was no assumption, they wouldn't be probing in the first place. So I take that back. Yeah. So they can be. Their assumption can be either on your side, or they may give you the benefit of the doubt, but they're gonna look anyway, or they're gonna assume that you're really doing dirt here, and they're gonna try to go deeper. They're gonna try to hammer you. So I take that back. So DI found in respect of the aforementioned omissions, that while the statutory declaration filed by Mr. Holness for year 2020 was inaccurate and incomplete, the mens rea, mental element component, that's what mens rea means, mens rea, a mental element component of the offense could not be satisfied. So basically they're saying that even though when they looked at it, they give him the benefit of the doubt that the omission could have been because he just forget. That's what mens rea mean. The mental aspect of it is oversight. I didn't see him, but based on what they found, and they found that he was using some of the accounts. So it couldn't be that you don't. And as of 2022, if I can recall, right? So it can't be that this guy just forget. There's something else there, right? So that's basically, it didn't satisfy, right? So they wrote to him on March 10, 2023. And they say, further kindly advise the commission of your interest in any, if any, in the under mentioned accounts. Bank account, Nova Scotia, Jamaica Limited Savings Account, number 21, 6460. JMB Easy Access Account, 0006 and 1074. Those are the ending numbers of the accounts, right? So with 21, this is his response. This account belongs to my father. And he says precaution for emergency precaution. He has no interest in the account. That's what he says about that one. The account ending 64 and 60. These accounts belong to my mother, right? And he named his mother, Carl Harvey, right? And it's for the same thing, precaution, emergency precaution. I have no interest, right? Now, I highlight this one in red, right? And if you see, I note something here, and it's not satisfactory, right? And I mean that is not satisfactory to me, right? And here what it says. This is an easy access account, and that's the account number, right? He said, I was aware of the existence of this account until your query. My checks with JMB revealed that when their banking license was approved, they migrated, transferred some types of investment accounts to their commercial bank in 2020. The value of my investment accounts in JMB was reported on my statutory declaration from as far as 2009. In 2018, I responded to the Integrity Commission's query on my JMB investment with further clarifying information which would have showed that my investment accounts were inactive. I have now given them. I don't really like that statement. It's just not satisfactory to me, right? You have all these accounts and you just don't know, right? First of all, what the hell are you doing with all these accounts? He's alleged to have 28 accounts, right? And he's running about 3 businesses, which these business has no clients, right? I'm not gonna mince no words. I don't feel good about this report, right? You have 3 businesses, right? You don't need all that account, right? Bank account. You only need 1 bank account per business, 2 the most, right? And I say that because I run business, right? So the fact that you have all these bank accounts and you're forgetting about stuff, it raised an eyebrow. You know what I'm saying? And if you're telling the truth, it's just sloppy. I don't want my prime minister to be this sloppy. This is sloppy work right here. I can be sloppy. It doesn't mean that I'm not sloppy, but it means that that's the prime minister. That's the person making the most important decisions for the country to thrive in any measure, right? And if this person is this sloppy, go tell how this person is running the country, right? So when it's all said and done and it's all checked out, that this guy is at least one thing is gonna prove that this guy is a sloppy person, right? He's sloppy with his affairs, financial that is. You know what I mean? Like it's not put together. It's just all over the place. You know what I'm saying? That you're forgetting accounts, and you're forgetting that you open account with strangers, right? So these are not strangers. Those are his parents, right? But I'll get to that in a second, right? Down here, this is mom, right? She said his mom opened the account on her owner card, opened an investment account, right? And she got a lump sum for her retirement or investment, whatever it is, right? Those lump sum, to my view, needs to be verified. Because if there's a lump sum of money that goes in there, how do I know he's not saying lump sum because he put some lump sum in there? I don't know that. This need to be verified that the source of this lump sum, first of all, there's a lump sum, and the source of that lump sum, where did it come from? Right? And he was added purely for estate planning. So he's helping his mom. And as you can see, I put a note right here that was a lump sum verified. I would like to see the verification of that lump sum and who put it there and where it's coming from, right? Because we got to look at everybody at this point in time. You can't spare nobody. I see a lot of comments on social media. Oh, they're putting his mom, a poor old lady. I'm like, well, I don't care how old you are. If you're involved in corruption, you need to go rotten in jail for the rest of your life, miserably. So I'm not sparing nobody. I'm not accusing them, but I'm not sparing them, right? If they are involved if he turns out to be what a lot of people think he is, right, and they're involved, they need to go down with him just as well. I don't care how old they are. You should and take your old ass and go sit one side, right, and not try your very best to tell your son that, hey, look, this doesn't look right. I don't want to be a part of it. That's what you should have done. Use your moral fortitude, right? But anyway, he's on there for estate planning. He amended the statutory declaration September 3rd, 2020, to include investment referred to in his August 13, 2021 letter. Right? And these are all the other account opening received from duly authorized officer, BNS, blah, blah, blah. Right? Those are some other accounts in question. I'm not going to go to detail in it. But these are some of the accounts that came on the question. 64908503. As you can see, there's withdrawals accumulating up to, and they're saying, hold on, it says Holness and one of his sons between September 21st, let me read this part, September 2021 and May 22 table sets out transactions. So they have transactions, it look like withdrawals right here of $2.6 million, $1.2 million right here, and there's also deposits here of 1.8, right? But it's saying that there's also withdrawals accumulating to up to like $222 million right here from September no, 222,000, sorry, 222,000, and that's from September 2021 to May of 2022, those withdrawals. This one is from December 2021 to August from August 2021. Oh, it's read backwards, right? So August 2021. No, I'm reading it right. December 2020 to August 21st, right? February 21 to December 2021, right? And from September 21 to May 2022. and those are the withdrawals, right? So here I say reasonable doubt because the director of corruption prosecution, which is the person who's supposed to make a decision within the IC, the Integrity Commission, she made a decision not to prosecute him based on the fact that they can't prove beyond reasonable doubt that he omitted the information by accident. And that's that's legally for you. They can be able to prove some things in court, but can you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? Like, is it an open and shut case? That's basically what it is. So a lot of people may say, well, he didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't mean that he didn't do anything wrong. It just means that the court of law have standards, and you have to be able to meet those standards. If you know you're not going to meet those standards, there's no point in wasting the wasting resources trying to prosecute, right? And that's basically what they're saying here. It says, and I'm saying here, the recent activity. That's what I tell you, recent activity in these accounts. There is recent activity. That's why I say there's recent activity. Up until 2022. So don't tell me that you get on this account as a child and no, you didn't know. No, there's recent activities that is telling me that you were using the account, but you and your son, right? And reasonable doubt don't mean that you're not guilty. And I just said that. It don't. I'm not saying he's guilty, but it also don't mean that he's not guilty either. It's just that the decision made by the direction, because the director of corruption prosecution, they make a ruling or a judgment call on this this portion of the report that says we're not going to prosecute him for just this section. There's other sections of the report, people, that needs to be investigated. It needs to be investigated by the Financial Investigative Division. They have more powers that could go tear down whatever walls that he's putting up and find out. That's the power that they have. And if they want to work internationally to see what's going on, if there's any international bodies involved, they can do that too, right? So they have more investigative power, and hence they were referred, right? That's why I said reasonable doubt doesn't mean that you're not guilty. To me, I see activity in these accounts. So even though and here's a couple other accounts that there's activity in as well, right? Even though the corruption prosecutor, and just let you know, there is a DCP, which is Director of Corruption Prosecutor, which is in the arm of the Integrity Commission. There's also a DPP, which is a Director of Public Prosecution. That's the highest prosecution office in Jamaica, ingrained in the Constitution. That person have the highest prosecutorial power. They can take over. They can take this. That person, or whomever is holding this office, can take over this investigation and do it themselves, carry out their own investigation, or put their people together and prosecute it, right? Or they can look at it and say there's enough to prosecute here, and we're going to prosecute. They can also take it over and say, you know what, we're going to kill it. We ain't going any further, right? That would probably raise an alarm, but that's a DPP, right? But the DCP is within the Integrity Commission's arm. Here's a statement here as well. There's a Bank of Nova Scotia, 142. This is a statement from Andrew Holness, right? And let me read the precursor to that. It says, on August 31st, 2023, by way of notice pursuant to Section 14.5, right, of the Corruption Prosecution Act, Mr. Holness was asked by the DI, right, Director of Investigation, right, to explain his association with this account, right, and that's the account 142. He subsequently provided the following explanation. And For what I see, he's providing explanation, and I'm not seeing any evidence. But I guess they have the evidence. They wouldn't put the evidence in the report. That wouldn't make sense. That would be too much stuff. They chronologize the chronology of the evidence that they gathered. They represent them with tables and charts. That's how you present a report. You're not gonna put other people. Oh, we don't see the investing. We don't see the paperwork. Let's see the paperwork. No, that's not how you present information to the public. It doesn't make sense, right? But anyway, he said BNS account 142 is primarily held by Elizabeth Reed, who worked in my constituency office more than 20 years ago. My recollection is that I had encouraged her to open a bank account through which her wages could be paid online. I do not recall the circumstances in which my name was added to her account. I have written to the bank to have my name removed. So basically, you're using this opportunity to clean up your tracks. Huh? You might as well leave it there, bro, because it's already there. You know that this I put this one in red too because this one doesn't make sense to me. And I said here, where is Elizabeth Reed? Right? Somebody need to find Elizabeth Reed and ask her some questions. Put her under oath. Put her under judge's rule too, and ask her some questions. Or did they not? I don't know. Probably they did. So probably they have more stuff that they're holding. Who knows? And what's your answer in relation to this bank account? I would want to hear from Elizabeth Reed because that's what happened with Roy Reed. When they asked him, when they asked the gardener and they asked the helper and all this stuff, they're the one who read it because the pressure come down. And with these people are highly sophisticated, right? They're smart. You know, I'm not gonna say Andrew Holness is dumb. He's pretty smart, right? But he also have other smart people working for him, right? He didn't do this by himself, right? I know I don't know that for a fact, but my common sense and my intellect tell me that he didn't do this by himself, right? So there's other people involved, right? You find those people and you squeeze them because guess what? He may have the resource to survive and he may have the resource to wiggle his way and delay and be stubborn, but not a lot of people have those resources. Not a lot of those people want to go to jail or go to prison. So you find them, and that's how they do it around here too. Like I said, I was called into in by the NCIS. I was one of the person involved in the investigation. The last person they interviewed was the person who was actually who was the accused. So they find everybody that they can find around the situation and they squeeze their arm to see what they can get out of them first. Right? And it's the same thing I think should happen here. So I would want to hear what happened to Elizabeth Reed. I can say her name because it's in the report. I'm not defaming her or anything like that. You know, I'm just citing. I'm just saying she's guilty of anything. You know, I'm just saying I would want to hear her answers to what's going on because what the Prime Minister is saying is not making sense. You know, you hire somebody and you put your name on their account. The Prime Minister for that who? The Prime Minister. Here, you know, I was in the military, as I said, and these are things that cause you would lose your clearance and could probably get kicked out of the military. Because they don't play around with espionage and all this stuff. These are simple things like these. No, this is not simple. Let me take that back. This is not simple. But things like these are things that cause you to get hemmed up, kicked out of the military. You lose everything. Dishonorable discharge. And you gotta go live in the toilet for the rest of your life. Right? Anyway, 3 accounts. And here they are. And all these was open in 2008. JMB 006 7958 and 1074. All that stuff was open in 2008, right? The three accounts had nil balance over the period under consideration and up to March 13 when amounts were transferred to them. So they hold, basically what they're saying here is that these accounts hold nil balance. They don't have no money in there for a long time. So they're just sitting there waiting to catch something. They're sitting there, and then from 2008, a lot of these accounts was sitting there in 2008. So that's years up until 2023. So take away 8 from 23. How much is that? Can't even do the math. 15? So 15 years they just sit there. $15 you have some empty bank accounts just sitting there. And then they just have their money. Here they're saying that his net worth grew by $51 million over a 5-year period, ended December 31st, 2021, because this 31/12, yeah, the only one number that I can go into a year is 12, so I would say December, right? It says unexplained changes in net worth was calculated as $4.4 million net effect for a year ended 2020 December 31st 2021. That's one of the stuff in the report, right? Now 14.5. Remember I said I was going to explain 14.5. So this is 14.5. Illicit enrichment. Right? And it says here they are trying to explain what illicit enrichment is right here. And it says here that illicit enrichment is the enjoyment of an amount of wealth that is not justified through reference to lawful income. It can be broadly justified, right? And in his judicial review, this is one of the things he's trying to get straight. He says unlawful, right? He says under section 14.5, where a public servant owns asset disproportionate to his lawful earnings, and upon being requested by the commission or any person duly authorized to investigate an allegation of corruption against him, to provide explanation as to how he came by such assets. He fails to do so or gives explanation which is not considered to be satisfactory. So they're using he. They're not necessarily talking about him here. They're citing a statute. They're talking about in Jamaica. If even if you go through the Constitution and you go through the Jamaican laws, you realize that it's kind of I don't want to say sexist, but it's kind of patriarchal. Like it's a lot of it says he, but it should be he or she, right? So you can transpose he or she here if you think it's beneficial to do so. It says satisfactory. He shall be liable to prosecution for the offense of illicit enrichment, right? On conviction thereof to the penalties specified in section 15, subsection 1. So they're saying that you have to look into section 15, subsection 1 to find whatever punishment that is going to arise from all this stuff up here. That's basically what that is saying, right? They further explain that illicit enrichment law in Hong Kong is broadly similar to the Jamaican law. So that's kind of where they get the statute from, you know, and that's where they find precedents. Sorry, it says here, similar to the Jamaican law in this regard. The Supreme Court of Hong Kong, in its examination of practical application of this law, held in the case of Ernest Percival Max Hunt versus the Queen,
the Crown is required to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the accused person has maintained a standard of living above that commensurate with, that means it jives, right? It, you know, it's equal to what they're supposed to have, right? With his present or past official emoluments, right? And emoluments, I think I wrote that somewhere. Yeah, emoluments mean compensation. It means salary. It means fee. It means profit received from services or holding office. That's basically what emoluments. So emoluments is your pay, right? Then, if the prosecution manages to do this, an explanation by the person accused becomes necessary, which must be established on balance and probabilities, right? The case of Attorney General Hugh King Hong outlined that in order for the state to establish that a person's standard of living is above that commensurate with their income, they must show that the standard of living maintained by the accused could not reasonably in all the circumstances have been afforded out of this total official emoluments during that period. So basically the periods and time frames come into play here. Based on this period, so in Andrew Holness, I don't know what they're going to be looking at. They're probably looking at his entire political career. Based on the wealth that you have now, if we added all you pay from that you earn from holding official office, could you have had all these assets? And I said assets in the form of savings, investments, and all that stuff. Could you have had all this stuff? They're probably going to look at the interest rates that you're getting and all that stuff. So, you know, and what you currently have. What have you paid for in this time? That's why they ask him for his expenses. So now they can look at his expenses and see what you buy. Because no, if we see that you buy and own all this stuff and it doesn't jive with what you're having here, then no, we have some problems. And I think that's a portion that they can't get from him, right? Is his expenses, to see what he has bought, because and smartly so he didn't turn it over, right? Because now they can look into what he actually buy. You know, I have 5 Rolls Royces all paid off, you know. Not him, I'm just saying hypothetically, right? If they're looking at me now and they see all these stuff that I own that I have all paid off, you know, like I have 5 Rolls Royces, you know, 3 Lamborghini, a few Bentleys, you know, a beach house, you know, somewhere, you know, in Ibiza somewhere, you know, I own a house in Bali, you know, I mean, things like that. But what I'm making doesn't add up. Then no, they're gonna say, okay, where do you get all this money, right? So that's why they need to see his expenses, and so far he's been withholding those. So therefore, he's not 100% cooperative, right? I think that's where I stopped, because that's all I kind of wanted to cover. No, I cover some more stuff right here. Yeah. Basically, they were saying that Holness, they're looking into his company here, and it said Mr. Holness and Imperium. They said DI's analysis shows change of unexplained growth in combined network Imperium. So this was negative 1 million and change between 2020 and 21, and 1.9 between 21 and 22. So it was negative between 2020 and 21, and then now it's positive, almost $2 million between 21 and 2022, right? Unexplored growth in network was found for the year of 2022. Same thing, right there. I kind of highlighted, but I didn't highlight the whole paragraph. You know, this is some explanation, right? You're saying here,
it is pertinent to note that during the course of this investigation, the DI came into possession of a letter dated February 17, 2023, addressing to the chairman of the Integrity Commission for the attention of the DI. Under the hand of Mr. Holness, this letter inter alia indicates the following. As previously explained in response to queries from the Integrity Commission, Imperial Investment Limited was established as a holding entity for my assets and any income or liabilities they generate. Here it says Imperium Investments Holding, right? Was wound up in 2020. No, they said that Limited is a company which I am the sole director, a shareholder. And in 2021, they wound up ADMAT. This is a company that he owned in St. Lucia, right? Between him and his son, right? They were the shareholders and directors. ADMAT assets were transferred to Imperium, right? So completed in 2021. And it says they're in the business of investing in stocks and business ventures. That's basically what they do, right? Holness holds 600 of the 1,000 shares, and 400 shares are unallocated. Nobody owns those shares, right? Mr. Holness and his sons, December 31st, 2020, the financial statements prepared by Edward and Gilzine or Gilzan, but I sound like Gilzine, chartered accountants and business consultants, as submitted to the commission by Mr. Holness, indicate that ADMAT held assets totaling $130 million, inclusive of residential and financial assets. ADMAT was wound up December 30, 2021, and its assets transferred to Imperium. It is important to note that so basically there's what they're saying, that the funds here that was in ADMAT, they wasn't able to verify where those funds come from. So you have 130 there, he has 130 in a Citibank, and there's money elsewhere, right? And these are a summary of his assets and liabilities in this table right here between 21 and 22. I'm not going to go through this. As I said, people went over this exhaustively, right? I'm just picking out stuff that jumps out of me, and I know will jump out at you. It says here, in 2008, ADMAT Inc. purchased, this one is very interesting. 2008, ADMAT Inc. purchased $100,000 of government bond. That's basically what it's saying, government bond. Or it says Government of Jamaica Global Bond. This was held through Stocks and Securities Limited, which Stocks and Securities Limited is otherwise known as SSL. Those are that's the embroiled company that was reported widely in the media for malfeasance. Or alleged malfeasance, Usain Bolt money got missing and a whole bunch of chicanery, right? So he got coupon payments, right? So what coupon payments is, he says coupon payments was $143,000. So that's basically what he's saying, that he total in terms of coupon payments. And coupon payments, they pay you the interest and dividends. That's basically what coupon payments are, right? So whatever interest, it doesn't just stay there and sit there and grow. He's collecting. It's kind of like these are what you call income investments, right? You invest in, and then you invest a lump sum or a principal, and then the returns off of it is kind of like income. That's basically what he's saying right there. Right, so he's saying that 143, and then the bank account was closed later on, which they give him 142,000, right? um, which was transferred to Imperium, right? I do a little bit of calculation, and I had to draw for my what do you call it? My college notebook, and this was when I was doing pre-calculus, right? I want to calculate compound interest, right? And basically, I calculated a few ways, right? Right? Annually, right? So if he was gaining interest, because it said 8% interest right here, 8% interest. So if he was getting an annual 8% interest, this is what he would have accumulated, right? 298,000 US dollars, that is, right? And the formula used is principal, right? You see P, and in parentheses you have 1 plus the rate, which is 8%, right? To the power of the time. So I calculated the time, and the time was about 13 years, right? From 2008 to about 2021. When he said they close, when did he say they closed it down? Yeah, 2021. Right? So 2021 is about 13 years. Right? So if I calculate it at 13 years, I'm going to come up to about 298,000, right? Or maybe I did 14. I don't remember, but the time, that's the power. So basically you do this, parentheses, 1 plus the rate, which is 1 plus 0.08, right? And then you do this in the parenthesis to the power of the time, which is to the power of 14, and then once you get that, you multiply it by the principal, you get 298,000 right there. Semi-annually, which means that you get interest on it twice per year, right? So I did it right. This is a formula, right? N represents the amount of times you get interest on it per year. So if you get an interest, or it's compounding per year. So if it's compounding here, which you say you get coupon twice a year, so I would say it's compounding twice a year, right? So I use N right here, which is equal to, so it's 1 plus the rate, which is 0.08, divided by 2, right? Which I would divide this by 2 first, then I add it to the 1, right? Times N, which is 2 times the time, right? Which is not times, to the power of nt. So nt, so you'd multiply n, which is 2, times the time. So now you're going to get to the power, if it's 13, you're going to get to the power of 26, right? I'll get to 277,000, right? But you may see this number is lesser here because when you divide this right here, right, you're going to get a lesser number. So equivalent to a lesser number at the end right here. You know, go ask your calculus people all this, because that's what they do. They prove this. But basically, when I Google, this is some information that I Google, it says you just multiply the percentage by the principal. So I multiply the percentage by the principal, I get 8,000, right? So if it's get 8,000, if you put in 100,000 and I multiply by 8%, I'm gonna get 8,000, right? So and the twice a year that he said, let me also clarify something. He said you get twice a year, which we said was September, and it was March and September. That's what he said. I'm trying to find it. Should be noted at my blah. Yeah, twice yearly. The coupon payments twice yearly in March and September. The bond was sold September 2021. So, yeah, everything kind of connects. Yeah, so anyway, if you're getting coupon and you multiply the percentage and he's getting 8% of 100,000 is 8,000. So if he's getting two times, that should be 16,000 a year. And if I multiply it by 1,000, by 1,000 by 13 years, I get 208. So I would say he at least get 208,000 in terms of benefit from this account. Right? That's how I calculate that to be. Which basically put in 100,000, you get 143,000 in coupon payments plus this 142 right here. So if you add this together, you're gonna see it's like 285,000 somewhere about US dollars. So he made some money off this account. Here's where my question comes in. SSL is a company with a checkered past, right? A lot of people lose money. So the question is, were they taking other people's money and giving it to investors? Or what do you call it, prime investors? I don't know. I'm speculating. I'm not even going to say I believe it to be what that's what happening, but I don't know. It's very speculative at this point. But how you make so much money while other people lose so much money? I don't get that. This needs to be looked into, right? So those are some of the stuff that jumps out at me by looking at it through this report. If you want to read this report, you can read it yourself. And as I said, there's many people. Deion Jackson Miller, I remember her name now. She has about a 7-part short videos, breaking it down for you. 7 parts or 8 parts that she breaks it down into. So she explained 171 pages to you so you can understand in very intimate details, right? I'm not going to go through it. I'm covering it the way I see it, as I said. And these are the things. There's a lot more that I'm aware of because I read the full report and I also listened to other people covering it, to see if there's anything I missed. So I'm familiar with it, right? So this prime minister is in a lot of problems because the report is being referred to the FID and the Tax Administration Jamaica and also FSC, I think, right, to look at some stuff, and then they're asking other body because there's some findings that one of his business partner he appointed to some 2 or 3 important agencies. Couple of those agencies cover real estate, which him and his business partners are actively participating in with their businesses, right? So that constitute conflict of interest. Is not a question. It's conflict of interest. I see people on TVJ arguing that it's not, and I'm like, this government is severely handicapped. If you have people in your government, if you have an entire government, cannot clearly identify what conflict of interest is. That's the basics. So that's the basics. Or maybe there is. I think that this is a planned response. They know that this report is coming out. They know that they're gonna have to weather the storm. So they sat down and they come up with a game plan that this is how they're gonna respond to it. And most of it has been observed. A lot of them are using that one statement that the director of corruption prosecution gave. Right? I want to see if I'll find it without blinding you guys. Is it this one? Make it know that. Oh, these are the addendums. Further statement of witnesses. Right? But anyway, here's some more addendums. has been added. See if I find this statement here. As I said, people cover this thing exhaustively. Indices. Hold on, I'm trying to find this. So they say today I recommend that this report be referred to the Director of Prosecution for consideration as to whether the offense of making a false statement in statutory declaration and or any other offense have been committed. Respecting the tax compliance, blah blah blah. There's a lot more to cover in this report, people. Kevon Stephen, Director of Investigation. That's who that is. Mm. Hold on, I'm still trying to find this thing. Anyway, it seems like I'm not gonna go over this part. Anyway, but a lot of people is using that statement, but that's only to one part of it, where the Director of Public Prosecution, Director of Corruption Prosecution rather, make a ruling on those accounts, involving his parents, and that that constituency worker that previously worked for him, Elizabeth Reed, um, that they can't prove it, but beyond reasonable doubt. Right? They make him prove it, but they can't prove it. So they're not going to prosecute that part of it. But the rest of it is being referred to different bodies to be investigated. Right? And but this report is very damning for a prime minister to be this sloppy. So even if nothing come out of it, one thing I know is gonna come out of it is that he's sloppy, right? And I don't want that kind of prime minister running, my country. And I say my country, even though I live in the States, it's still my country. I'm still a citizen. I still have people back there. I still have love for my people, right? Even if you're a family, you're not family. You know, and I would say we're all family, but yeah, it's very damning. What have I done about it? And what I think needs to be done about it. What I think needs to be done about it is that there needs to be more media coverage on it. I see people covering it, and I chose not to cover it for a while, or talk about it for a while. I try to give those people who are covering it suggestions, like a lot of prominent, like YouTubers, vloggers, podcasters are covering it, and I may type, and sometimes I call. I try to reach out, DM some of them. Is like, hey, look, we need to get the big media platforms to cover this stuff. And I gave them a couple of suggestions, right? Some of the suggestions that I gave is what I gave. I reached out to some major content creators. One of them is DJ Academics, right? I haven't received a response, but DJ Academics is he's a Jamaican, but he's a content creator mostly in the hip hop culture, right? And he has a huge following, right? He has huge notoriety, and I think that if a person like that cover it, it will bring more media coverage. Somebody, because a lot of big media companies pick up their stories from time to time, and I think that would, if we can get that, to that level, some of the big media company would pick it up, and then that would put a lot of pressure for him on the prime minister, at least, step down or step aside until the investigation is over. You have a deputy prime minister, you have all that stuff. Step aside. You know what I mean? I don't care, and that's the thing. I don't really care about the party or whatever. It's alleged that there's more illicit, there's more reports that's supposed to come out on people, or other people are being investigated. I don't really care if the party run, but you shouldn't be leading the country. So even if your party win the next election, you shouldn't be the one at the helm. That's just my stance on the whole thing. You know what I mean? I don't care if Labor Right win or PNP win, right? We just need somebody with integrity running the country, right? And we need more accountability. You get what I'm saying? So my stance of it is that you should step aside so the investigation can continue, right? But I reach out to academics. I reach out to Angela Yee. I email Roland Martin. No, I didn't email them. I DM'd them. I sent them a message on Instagram. Who is it? African Diaspora. You know what I mean? And I plan to reach out to like Democracy Now, right? TYT, Breakfast Club. I try to find Charlemagne the God. I try to find him, but there's too many of Charlemagne the God on Instagram. I don't know which one is the right one, right? So I don't want to message the wrong one. So I just leave that alone. If I can find another way to reach out, and I don't want him to form an opinion. I just want him to cover it. You don't have to form an opinion. Just cover the report, right? That will bring the media pressure that it deserves, so this guy can just take a hike. And that's what I think that needs to happen. That's what I'm doing, and we need a lot more people doing it. If people can just get up there and reach out to these people and follow them, right? Because that's the first thing I do. I follow DJ Academics. I follow these people, right? So if they gain 50,000 followers, right? Just put a number out there, 100,000 followers, right? And even if you're in the opposition, say for example you're the PNP and you want to get rid of the JLP, follow these people. This is a best way you can use to get rid of them, right? Follow these people, number one, right? So you grow their following, they're gonna be excited, right? And you guys are gonna flood their inbox like, hey, please cover this story, please. I just want you to cover it. You don't need their opinion. They don't have to have an opinion. Just cover the story. And that's the type of media storm that I think will help flush it in this guy's face, so to speak, so he can step away. He can, kind of pull back in the background, so to speak. Even though we kind of want him up front so we can see what he's doing, because we don't want to just set him aside and he's back there pulling strings too. But we think that with his office is kind of detrimental to the office that he holds, and also that office is very powerful. He can use that office to it's already noted that he's not cooperating, 100%. You know what I mean? So why would he use his office to influence the FID investigation? Especially the FID sits under the financial, the finance ministry, which sits under him. He appoints the financial, the minister of finance, who sits over, and we're hearing that those divisions is short staff. What to say he's not gonna hire the right amount of people to investigate him, right? And based on the filing that he just made, on September 30th to the Supreme Court, that he's big mad about the situation, right? Which I'm gonna go into that next, right? We don't know that he's not gonna use his office to influence the investigation that needs to take place, because those know the FID do financial, they investigate financial crimes. So no, it's not only that they're looking to certify, because they couldn't certify it. Not only that they're looking to certify or not certify is their statutory declaration. Now they're looking into whether you need to go to prison or not, right? Or pay some fines, something of that sort, right? So I don't know why he would have sabotaged that since he already sabotaged in this investigation over here, right? But moving forward, he just filed for a judicial. Well, he asked for leave to file for a judicial review. That's basically what he asked for. In Jamaica, if you're gonna file, you can't just go into the court and just file stuff like that. You gotta ask for leave to file the case in the first place, right? And you gotta submit the reasons why you need to submit the case, and the courts need to look at this basically. So basically, what he does is asking the court to guide the process. Did what they do? Did they refer to the FID? Follow the law? If their quest into his personal and business finance, was that lawful? The way they tabled the report, was that lawful? Right? He has all these complaints, right? Which, in my view, he has a right. He has a constitutional right to challenge the allegations against him, right? A lot of people say he sued the Integrity Commission. No, he did not sue the Integrity Commission, right? And I'll show you real quick why I say he did not sue the Integrity Commission, right? Let me do this. I'll show you real quick, and I'll find this. And I put that over there. And let's look into this now. Oh, hold on. What the hell just happened? Right? Well, am I not capturing this one? Alright, hold on, let's see if I can get this thing to work the way I want it to work. Remove that. Yes, I'm certain. No, scene. Alright, let me add a scene here. Window. Okay. Add window capture. Okay. Okay. All right. Now let's move that over there. Okay. So now you're seeing that. Okay. So now I'm gonna. What did I say I was gonna look at again? Okay. The Integrity Commission. See, I already looked it up right here. Integrity Commission Act of Jamaica.
This is a PDF version, right? And we're looking for, let me big this up a little bit. No, that's too big. We're looking for section 5. Is this it? I think it's section 5. Um, where is it at? Okay. Oh, that's not it. What is this one? What am I looking at here? Let's do this. Oh, I went dark. Can look at me for the time being. Window. Okay. Integrity Commission Act. And I'm looking for a section. Mm. Wow. Why can't I find the things when I need it? Shall be by the corporate purposes of section Commission Act. Integrity Commission. Judicial Act. I know I find it and posted it before. Anyway, I can't find that. But anyway, there's a section in the Integrity Act say you can't sue any person that investigated you in the Integrity Commission, and you cannot sue the Integrity Commission. So he's not suing the Integrity Commission. He is simply asking for a judicial review. And in this event, I kind of feel sorry for him. I feel like his lawyers is taking advantage of him. You know what I mean? Because in these situations when lawyers kind of take advantage of you too, you kind of need to sue somebody. You kind of need more advice, and they just come in and they tell you all kind of stuff so they can extract some money from you too. So I kind of felt sorry for him in this regard. The rest of the stuff I don't feel sorry for him for. one of the things he was saying in his complaints is that they shouldn't have looked underneath the hood. They shouldn't have looked into his companies. They should have just worked. Basically, what he's saying is that they should have just worked with whatever he produced as his personal income, and that would have had his statutory declaration um, um, certified. But because they started looking at his companies and the company wasn't notified, he's saying, and I kind of disagree with that, because here what the he failed the integrity commission gave reason why they looked into his companies, right? And they tell you why. And one of the reasons why he failed to act separate from the company. When you form corporations and all that stuff, LLCs, those are entities separate from yourself, right? In the United States, those entities carry what you call an EIN numbers. Just like you have a social security number, the business have a social security number, so it takes on its own identity, right? I'm trying to find. Yeah, it takes on its own identity, right? But and that creates what you well, you need more things to create what you call a veil. And one of the things that is that you have what you call for a LLC, you would have a operation. You would have a operating agreement, right? That's kind of like the weeds are the details that tells how the organization is going to be run, and the who is the directors, who is this and that, and blah blah blah, and if the company needs to be dissolved, what's going to happen if somebody die, what's going to happen, that's in the LLC. You have an operating agreement. With a corporation, you have what you call the bylaws, right? Those are some of the things, and those are things that it will behoove you to get a lawyer to write those things, right? Those are the things that create what you call a veil, right? But you also got to act independent of the company, right? And one of the things that he wasn't acting independent of the company, because he has bank accounts that he's funnel in money through in the name of the company, right? The company needs to have a bank account, and then that's that, right? But you can't act within your personal and commingle, and then expect that veil is gonna still, or what you call that iron dome over the company is gonna maintain. No, right? I can't find it, but they list some reasons in the report. Just read the report. They list some reasons in the report. I just can't remember it. But one of them was that failure to act independent of the company. I remember that one specifically, right? And he did not act in many of instances he did not. He failed to act independent of these companies, right? Separate your personal finance from the company's finance. That's one of the most important things, right? Do we all do it? Yeah, as business people, sometimes people mess around and do the wrong thing too. You know what I mean? And if you don't have proper guidance, that kind of things. That's why I'm saying he's sloppy. So worst come to worst out of this is that he's sloppy, and he shouldn't be the prime minister anyway. Cause we don't want a sloppy prime minister. In my view, I want my elected officials, that run my country, to be the best, because I want Jamaica to be the best. Number one, I'm tired of hearing Jamaican politicians talking about we're this little country, a little third world country, developing country. No, I don't accept that from those elected officials, right? We're paying you to be the best. We're paying you so that Jamaica in the near future is going to be the best country in the Western Hemisphere, or probably in the world, right? In every kind of measure, you want to measure it. In every kind of way you want to measure it, we want Jamaica to be the utmost best. Number one. Nothing else. So for you to come and give us excuse, well, for a developing country, and for a little country, no, I don't accept that. There's a littler country than us, or a smaller country than us, blowing it out of the water, and we should too, especially that we're surrounded by water. No pun intended, right? But I don't accept that, right? So if you're sloppy, I don't want you as my prime minister. I don't care what party you're from, right? And this thing is charged with political, like all kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm not. I'm wearing green, but I'm anti Andrew Holness. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm anti Andrew Holness. I used to like him. I don't like him anymore because the truth has come to bear, right? And I don't like him anymore. Green signify my company, but still, I don't like him. Right? Not as a person, but as the prime minister. You know what I mean? As a prime minister, I don't like him as a prime minister. He lied too much for me. Nothing that comes out of his mouth is believable in my view, right? The next thing is that this. He said that in the report is reported that if one of the findings in the report, I'm not going to say alleged, one of the findings in the report is that he used some funds from a charity to finance a bond from one of the electrical production companies in Jamaica, right? Because a lot of people don't know, in Jamaica you have electric production companies. They produce electricity, and then JPS get it from them, and they distribute it. So there's distribution company, which is JPS, and then there's several production company. I think he invested in one of them, and he purchased a bond, 94,000 US. 32 or 30 something odd thousand came from the charity, right? In his statements in the report, he's saying that the bank made an error. The bank did not. The bank issued a statement, and I wrote a statement, and it didn't corroborate what he says. Right? So the bank made an error and reported and pulled money from somewhere they didn't supposed to pull back, and he instructed them, and they're like, "No, you didn't give us such a job. The only instruction you give us is the last one that say, hey, look, it's time now, it's up, and we give you back your money." But that's long after he's been kind of collecting interest on the money and take the same money back and put it back into one of his companies, right? That company is Positive Jamaica Foundation, right? That's the charity. Now when the report came out, they asked him to give us a speech in Parliament. He gave a speech too in Parliament, and he said there was an error. The bank made an error. He repeated that. Right? Now, in his complaints, he's saying that a lot of this stuff he's hearing at first, and he wasn't aware of that. They didn't tell him what they were looking at, and the companies they shouldn't have looked at, and they didn't tell him that they were looking at the company, didn't communicate with the company properly. But my lord, you are the company. You are the sole director on some of those companies. Right? So you are the company. Who is they going to talk to? The company don't have a AI voice they can call. They're going to talk to you, the man behind the company, right? You put yourself up as the CEO, so they call you. When they call you, they call the company, bro. And now they're telling that they can look in the company because of all the reasons that they listed, right? So I don't buy that. But you're saying that company, they're saying that Positive Jamaica is not a charity. And when I was listening to because I haven't looked extensively into it, but Dion Jackson Miller was reading it. And that's where I stopped listening. I'm like, no, I couldn't move on past that part. He said the charity is not a company. No, he said that the charity is not a charity. Our Positive Jamaica Foundation is not a charity. I couldn't move on from that. Because I'm saying, no, if you're collecting money, or you're collecting donations, how many donations have you collected under Positive Jamaica Foundation? I looked it up online, and I see him handing out all kind of checks and all kind of charity work. So now you're acting in the guise of a charity.
how many people have you collected donations from who you told it was a charity, or who may have the perception? Because yeah, I don't think you know, perception is reality, bro. Perception is reality. I don't know if you know that. But how many people you told that this is a charity and they give you a buku amount of money to give to kids or whomever you give it to? So now I need answers on that too from myself. Is that have people ever donated, and has people donated and now want back their money? So now in that lawsuit, well, not lawsuit, that judicial review that you filed, and all the reasons why you think that they should strike out illicit enrichment. That's one of the things why he want to strike out of the Corruption Prevention Act, and he pretty much say he want to kill the. He said the Integrity Commission is unlawful, something that he put into play. It was written by the previous administration, cleaned up and put into law by his government in 2018. And now he's saying it's unlawful. So basically, you're saying that you're telling on yourself you've been doing initiating unlawful agencies and unlawful legislation throughout your whole career, because 2018 is not far removed from the first time you was elected. You was elected in 2016. So if you put in place an unlawful body, then that's on you, man. Who are you blaming? But you're saying that this charity is not a charity, and a quick look at whatever registration could, or registrar could have showed you that. But I'm like, if you're acting in the capacity of a charity, then you're a charity. And how many people have you told as a charity that they give you donations to give to support your causes? So you may have opened up yourself to lawsuits in the event, in the process of playing dumb, because you want to look strong and bold. And as I said, you have the right to fight. That's your right. You don't have to accept all the allegations against you. You don't have to accept all the findings against you. That's your right. You can fight. But at least make some sense. Put some sensible stuff on paper, because whatever you're putting on is just what you put on paper is just basically saying that they shouldn't have looked under the hood. They shouldn't have found out all your mess. That's basically, you haven't said anything about what, you haven't said anything that they say in the findings that is a lie. You say it's false, that they have what you claim is false, that they have told you that this is what they were looking into, and they haven't and you wasn't properly advised that they were looking into the companies, and it was false that you say this, and it was false that you say that. You haven't said it's false that you did what you did, or what it is found out, or some of the findings that is alleging what you do. So that doesn't make it for me. That's just like a person who cheated, and then their spouse, whether wife or husband, in whatever case, found the phone and go into the phone, and now you make the whole argument about going into your phone, right? That's all that sounds to me. But what really is glaring to me is the fact that you say that Positive Jamaica Foundation is not a charity. So if it's not a charity, what is it? And then how much money have you collected? And now, what are the tax implications? What have you claimed on your taxes about that company, about all the money you have given away? Or all the money, the donations that you have collected? Right? As I said, there's too much in the report to cover in once. That's why people do it in parts. But this is my spiel about it, and then I'm not going to talk about it again unless I'm typing on somebody else's podcast or vlog, cussing out some people or agreeing with some people, right? I do that too. I'm human in this age, and that's what people do in this age. You go in comment sections and you cuss people out, and you disagree with them, and you argue with them respectfully. Yeah, and you agree. You argue, you disagree, and you agree respectfully. At least that's what I do. I don't know about the others. Yeah, but that's kind of my spiel on the whole stuff, right? It's nasty. is dirty. And in Jamaica, a lot of people are of the notion are that nothing's gonna be done. Is just gonna do its time. You know, it's kind of like a hurricane pass through. It's gonna clean up what it needs to clean up, or not too much. You know, because hurricane always miss Jamaica for some reason. You know what I mean? Every now and then we get a little piece of it, but we never get one. We hardly get one fair and square, right? So it's like a hurricane. It's passing. It's gonna pass by. Nothing's gonna happen. And I say, a lot of people say we ain't gonna do. It's gonna. And I say the answer. It cannot be that we do nothing. The answer cannot be do nothing. We have to do something. I already tell you what I did, and I'm just gonna continue to do. I'm gonna reach out, do my part to reach out to however many media houses I can reach out to, whichever way, whether it's sending them an email, give them a phone call, something. But we need numbers. If you are very pissed off, especially if you're the other side of the political aisle and you're that pissed off, then your numbers count, and you can use your numbers and get the coverage. And what it needs is coverage, because the way the system is kind of orchestrated, it may not go anywhere if you're relying on the system to do what it to do their investigation and prosecute this person, right? It may not, but what you can do is affect change by getting the coverage, and that's what we need. We need to blow this up in his face as it relates to media coverage. That's what happened to Bruce Golden when he went through. Part of the reason why he stepped down, yeah, there was a vote of no confidence, but one of the thing was that our no confidence was raised, but one of the things is that the media coverage was worldwide. He couldn't survive that. And we have to make it big enough that he cannot survive it. And I don't care who run it next. It could be a cockroach. Just not him. Right? And as I said, this is Wild Thoughts, and this is the way I see it. Thanks for listening. Hello and welcome. This is Jovi and this is Wild Thoughts. This is my thoughts. This is free speech, so I don't buy talk. Albeit, this is how I see it. Like the video, share the video, subscribe.